Welcome to the Change Underground. I'm your host, John. Decarbonise the air, recarbonise the soil. Welcome to the November Regen Wrap. And today we start with an article from Food for Mzani, I think is how it's pronounced. It's a South African site. And the article's entitled Red Meat's New Story, Healing Land Through Grazing. Basically, they go on about all the different sorts. So they mention a couple of different sorts. Basically, they mention two sorts of rotational grazing. Okay, taking up from the article, rotational grazing isn't just better for the soil, it benefits the animals too. Healthier pastures lead to healthier livestock, which in turn supports a more sustainable and resilient meat industry. Addington, the fellow they're talking to, however, stresses that not all grazing systems are created equal. There are differences between rotational and regenerative grazing. Put most simply, the one is run by a spreadsheet and the other is run by a person on the ground who is managing the meeting between cow and the veld. That's the high upper plains of South Africa, their grazing areas. Getting the balance right. Rotational grazing is not the same as regenerative grazing. He explains that when regenerative systems are managed well, the veld begins to recover naturally. As cattle impacts become more evenly distributed, dormant seeds in the soil regerminate again. Over time, diversity increases and ecosystems become more resilient. The soil's ability to function improves dramatically. It's a virtuous cycle, which is pretty much the whole point of the regen thing, is to use the stock to improve the soil, which then improves the stock and so on, a virtuous cycle. Rotational grazing by a spreadsheet, at least it's a start. You're giving rest to the soil and whatnot. But I've got the ducks in a mobile ark now, and I've noticed, depending on the soil, they can need to be moved 3 times in a day, or just once a day, depending on whereabouts they are in the paddock. We'll see how it goes over time. I've only been doing it for probably 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. So I'll give a report on that after 6 months. Our next article comes from the Mansfield Courier. Mansfield's in Victoria. And Farms of the Future, Building on Natural Capital. The recent National Carbon Farming Conference and Expo held in Albury brought together agricultural leaders, producers and innovators from around the country with a series of guest speakers and panels and so on. The 4-day event aimed at helping farmers turn policy into profitable practical actions by covering topics like soil carbon, methane reduction and emissions measurement, and by showcasing what works on the ground. So kickstarting the event was one such example with a field trip to Bebarinja, a 1,000-hectare cattle farm near Bayona in New South Wales, demonstrating the move beyond conference theory to the proof in the paddocks. So the person running that, Jill perhaps, has been employing regenerative agriculture to actively rebuild the degraded land, which she described as historically flogged landscapes, which is an Australian expression for meaning worn out. Not only has she boosted her business's resilience, she's been able to sequester measurable carbon, which is a core goal of the carbon farming movement. Now, if you can't measure it, you can't get paid for it. I mean, you're going to get improvements in your bottom line anyway, with less inputs and healthier cattle and so on, and health because of healthier soil. But to be able to measure it means you get an extra layer of income, which is a good thing. And our next piece comes from a site called Antithesis. And it's an article entitled What's Next for Regenerative Apparel, which is a big thing. We don't realise how much this can affect things, particularly with the spray and grow cotton process. So let's talk about apparel. Regen Ag in apparel raw material sourcing and supply chains is shifting from pilots to scale, which is a good thing. In fact, there are strong examples of progress in cotton production where multi-year programs are maturing, Buyer commitments are steadier, and positive outcomes for nature, climate and people are emerging. Those three, nature, climate and people, pretty much all the same thing in a lot of ways, but yeah, that's a win-win-win. Better Cotton, a leading cotton sustainability program, is even evolving its own standard to explicitly target regenerative outcomes, soil health, biodiversity and water. Now, this is not the same as Regenerative Organic Certified, ROC. Instead, it's an update to Better Cotton principles and criteria and claims guidance. The revised standard is expected in 2026 with phased implementation thereafter, and therein lies the problem. There are so many different people attempting to, to brand their stuff with systems that work, that it's very easy for greenwashing to sneak in. Now, having a countrywide things like the USDA taking charge of organic certification in the States doesn't seem to... it works to a point, I guess, but there are many loopholes that could be exploited. The point is, you need to read what the labels are and probably go and do a Google on what they mean. I'd give AI a miss on that because the hallucinations probably wouldn't help. So yeah, but a good thing is that people are actually growing cotton regeneratively, and that's a win. And now our next article from One News New Zealand, of all places, a couple of days ago, maybe a bit longer, is entitled China's Diesel Trucks Go Electric, Global LNG and Diesel Impacts. China's a pretty big place and a lot of things are moved by trucks. And it's so big, in fact, that if you swap all the trucks over to electric, there's going to be an excess of diesel or liquid natural gas in the system, which is not a bad thing. Maybe your people will start leaving stuff in the ground. So China is replacing its diesel trucks with electric models faster than expected. Same thing happened here with solar panels on houses, way faster than people projected. It saves money, so people do it. Potentially reshaping global fuel demand and the future of heavy transport. So in 2020, nearly all trucks in China ran on diesel. By the first half of 2025, battery-powered trucks accounted for 22% of new heavy truck sales, up from 9.2% in the same period in 2024. So that's according to Commercial Vehicle World, a Beijing-based trucking data provider. Yeah, well, we'll see what those stats are like in time, I guess. The British research firm BMI forecasts electric trucks will reach nearly 46% of all sales this year and 60% next year. It's become almost inevitable, I guess. In the same way cars replaced horses, electric vehicles are replacing the internal combustion engine, despite the threats from the fossil fuel industry and their propaganda about needing gas and things to keep the lights on. The prices are now so low that it just doesn't make sense to do anything but go electric. So our next piece is from Chemical Industry Digest, which is a lovely name for something in a regen podcast, but anyway. So Morova invests 30 million in Varaha's regenerative agriculture project in India. Morova is an affiliate of the Texas Investment Managers dedicated to sustainable investment. Has announced a $30 million investment in Varaha's Keti soil carbon project. The initiative empowers smallholder farmers in India to adapt regenerative agricultural practices, marking Morova's first carbon investment in the country and its largest single commitment under nature-based carbon strategies to date. The move reinforces Morova's ambition to scale high-integrity climate solutions across Asia. Now, Asia and Africa, and let's call it the global south, is dominated by a lot of smallholders. And when you get them onto this regen stuff, their prospects will improve because they'll be growing healthier food in a healthier way with lower inputs. So yeah, across Asia, it's I'm all for it. The more the merrier. And from our good friends at Agriland in the Republic of Ireland comes an article entitled 2025 on track to be among the 3 warmest years ever. Okay, so October 2025 was the 3rd warmest October globally. They do go on about how much and whatnot. The average temperature was 15.14 degrees C across the planet. That's from the Copernicus Climate Change Service, or C3S as they call themselves for short. Lots of data is published by this mob, and it's based on a data set using billions of measurements from satellites, ships, aircraft and weather stations around the world. So that even if one nation wanted to twist the stats, they kind of get ironed out over time. And the latest data shows October 25 was 0.16 cooler than the warmest October on record, which was 2023, and 0.11 degrees C cooler than October 2024. So slight dipping in the last 3 years for October, but wow. October 2025 was 1.55 degrees above the estimated 1850 to 1900 average used to define the pre-industrial level. The first month above 1.5 degrees C above that average since April 2025. I'm pretty sure we can kiss 1.5 degrees goodbye. It's an idea that made sense, but no one got involved with it enough to make it happen. If we can keep it below 2, we'll be okay. Things are still going to be catastrophic in places. I saw last week that there was strong wind warning, severe thunderstorm warning, and catastrophic fire warning for the central west parts of New South Wales, up around Dubbo Way. And it's only November. New South Wales normally doesn't get their fires till a bit later. So we will see. The season is upon us. But if we can get ourselves a regen across the planet, we'll be able to decarbonise the air, recarbonise the soil, and then we'll be much, much happier. Thanks for listening. Be back next time.